I don't know. How are you? Just ask me how I'm doing. Just say your piece and then ask me how I'm doing and I'll tell you.
Hey guys, it's Carrie,
And I'm JT.
and welcome back to All Marbles Lost. How are you, JT?
I'm pretty good. I'm losing my marbles because I can't keep my eyeballs open, but that's...
We've already started with the sniffles again.
Have we really?
Yeah, you just sniffled. You said, I'm good.
Fuck, I didn't even notice, and I just did it again. But welcome back to the show where we have to drink copious amounts of Bang to keep our eyeballs open.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm terrified a spider's gonna get me.
Yeah, there was just a massive spider in the studio. Like, the biggest spider I've probably seen in this house. That's how big it was.
Yeah, I'm really pressed about it, because I was just looking at JT, and he just, looks at me, and his eyes get huge. And he's like, don't move. And I was like, I'm dead. I'm already dead. I'm actually just going to cease existing on the spot.
It was so big that, I saw it out of the corner of my eye while I was looking at my laptop. That's how big it was and how much attention it drew to itself. So why are you losing your marbles?
That's why. That's why I'm losing my marbles. The spider is going to get me. So now I have to spend the entire episode terrified that there's a spider behind me on the floor.
You'll be fine.
Not if a spider gets me, I won't be.
It's fine.
If I just focus on my case really hard, then maybe I won't notice.
That's the only reason you're losing your marbles?
Well, we have to go back to work tomorrow after our 11-day vacation, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm very upset about that. I'm also losing my marbles because my hand is still peeling. Jesus, I can't speak.
But it looks great, so it's fine.
True. Yeah, people probably don't know what I'm talking about.
You've said in every single episode that you were getting your hand tattooed. I'm pretty sure they know.
Oh, well, good. Everybody needs to be in the know. Everybody needs to know that happened.
And I'm sure everyone does.
But I'm very upset that my hand is still peeling. And also that I'm probably going to smack it on everything at work tomorrow.
It's going to be totally fine.
I'm just going to have to work with one hand behind my back.
Probably still do more work than a lot of people we work with.
Yeah, probably. So are we ready? Our 5 minutes of rambling is out of the way?
It's only 3.5.
Oh, I really thought that said 5.
No. We're doing great. But are you ready?
I guess.
Are you ready for me to take you to the 1500s?
Sure.
Alright. We're going to start in 1560. And I'm going to tell you about the most vicious female serial killer in all of history.
Alrighty.
She is also known as the Blood Countess or Countess Dracula. And her story is very interesting, but it's very hard to tell what is fact and what is fiction because it was so long ago that by the time people were documenting it, it had been 100 years since she died.
So it was word of mouth.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm telling you about Elizabeth Bathory, who is compared in literature and folklore to Vlad the Impaler and Dracula. And it's said that she is only outshined in her vampirism by Dracula, which is funny because Dracula is actually based off of Elizabeth Bathory and Vlad the Impaler.
Wait, really?
Yes. So it takes all the cruelty from Vlad the Impaler and Elizabeth's rumored vampirism, and Dracula was created.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I was researching. But yeah, it was.
So it's funny that they compare her to Dracula, but Dracula was literally based off of her.
Yeah. It's same with Vlad the Impaler because they were, almost a century apart or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they were very similar in their reputation for their cruelty and brutality and their bloodthirstiness.
Okay.
Elizabeth Bathory can also be seen in references apparently in DC Comics, which I didn't know. I didn't find which ones. And she's in American Horror Story as well. We knew that because we've watched it. But
Yeah.
And this was also, I just put this note in there. I wonder if the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland is based off Elizabeth Bathory.
I don't know. What makes you say that?
It was specifically, I read a description on a picture of Elizabeth Bathory, and it was basically like just saying she had a big ass head and was really mean, which made me think of the Red Queen. I could not think of her name for a second.
The Queen of Hearts?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
And it's just the outfits. I don't know. They all look the same to me. The collar thing, I can't do it.
I don't know very much about Alice in Wonderland, so
Well, you need to get with the program because Alice in Wonderland is dope. And legend also says that she bathed in the blood of her virgin victims to remain young and beautiful. That is the big thing you hear of when you hear about Elizabeth Bathory. It's like, oh, she bathed in the blood of virgins so she would still look young and healthy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, put a pin in that because I'm going to lay down some fact for you later.
Okay.
So I'm going to take you to August of 1560 in Transylvania. That is when Elizabeth is born. She was born on her family estate in near Bader and spent her entire childhood at the Acede Castle. And I'm going to just throw it out there now. I'm going to pronounce every single name wrong.
You said Transylvania, right?
Yeah.
So is that where the Dracula thing comes from?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I know Dracula lives in Transylvania,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
But yeah, every single name I say is probably wrong.
Okay. I will keep that in mind.
Elizabeth's father was Baron George VI Bathory. He was the brother of the Voivode, which is just the ruler or governor of like that particular area. Well, he was the Voivode of a part of Transylvania, and her family ruled Transylvania almost completely independent from the Kingdom of Hungary.
Okay.
And her mother was Baroness Anna Bathory, daughter of another Voivode of Transylvania. So that's why it said that her family, like, it was her mother's family and her father's family.
Okay.
But once they had her and, like, the families were connected, the whole family was in charge of Transylvania.
So, just a whole family of very important people.
Yes. So that makes Elizabeth very important. Elizabeth was also the niece of Stephen Bathory, who was the King of Poland and the Grand Duke of Lithuania. So she's really fucking important.
Yeah. If you're related to that many, like,
Yeah.
rulers or whatever.
Yeah, her whole family is just important. Which, like, arguably makes Elizabeth the most important out of all of them, because she ties all of them together.
Yeah.
So do you know what that means? It means my bitch can get away with whatever she wants.
Doesn't this story get incesty?
No.
It doesn't?
No.
Why did I think it did?
I don't know.
I thought that her parents were, like...
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Siblings
I
or
thought you meant
something.
specifically Elizabeth.
No.
Oh, yeah, her parents definitely were inbred.
Okay. That's what I thought, that, like, I had heard somewhere that because her family was very powerful, that they, like, tried to keep all the power.
Tried to keep it in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I might have heard that from a video that you were watching. I'm not sure, though.
Probably. It was probably Bailey Saren.
Okay.
And the rest of her family were kings, cardinals, knights, and judges. So she really could do whatever she wanted. And she was described as a sickly child. So she was just sick all the time. They specify. That's not the word I was looking for. They assume? I don't know. I'm going to go with assume. That's not the word I wanted. They assume that she was so sick all the time because of the inbreeding in the family.
Okay. Makes sense.
And she also suffered from epilepsy for most of her life. They also think that the inbreeding may be a cause of that. Well, treatments for epilepsy at this time were to take the blood of a non-epileptic person and rub it on the lips of the sufferer.
How does that make any sense at all?
I really don't know.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And if that didn't work, do you know what they did? They would take blood and a piece of the skull of a non-epileptic person, and they would like grind them up together, and Elizabeth would drink it.
How does that make sense?
I don't
at
know.
all?
I don't know.
That's like, makes me think of bloodletting or whatever, where it's like when somebody was sick, they would like cut your arm open.
Yeah, to like bleed it out.
Yeah.
That one kind of makes sense to me.
Why does that make sense?
I don't know. It makes more sense than putting more blood in your body.
Well, the reasoning for it doesn't make sense because people would say like, well, you go to the bathroom and like that comes out of your body and like blood doesn't have a way to come out of your body, so they'd be like, oh, you're sick because you have too much blood.
I always thought about it as like you released blood so that your body could create healthier blood. Not that you have too much, it's that the blood in your body is like tainted.
Oh, I've always heard that they did it because they thought that you had too much blood in your body.
Mm-mm. No, I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know where I've heard that then.
I don't know. I don't know where I got my knowledge either, so.
Who knows who's right?
We could just be making shit up on both ends. I really don't know. But either way, that is why people think that she became obsessed with blood.
Because she was fed blood as a child?
Yeah, because it was like she was very young and very sick, and they were like, this will fix it. This will make it all better. And then she was like, okay, so I'm going to do this when I have problems now.
So essentially it was just like a coping mechanism.
I think so. I wrote some shit right here, but I don't know what it means.
What do you mean?
It says, as most TC stories, we're mostly going from theory and word of mouth story, but I don't know what TC means.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
When you say like word of mouth stories, it just makes me think of the Bible. So I don't think that helps you in any way. But that's what I think of is the Bible.
What the hell does TC mean?
True crime.
Yes.
You have to leave that in.
Oh God, I can't breathe.
You have to leave that in.
As you can tell, we're really going through it this week.
You literally have to keep that in.
I'll keep it just for you. So as most true crime stories, we're going off theory and word of mouth story. And it was said that her family, they were all these like very important people, but a lot of them were very bad influences on Elizabeth. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all.
It was said that one of her uncles introduced and taught her all about Satanism, and her aunt taught her about sadomasochism. I can't say that word right, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Masochism?
Yeah, that one.
Isn't that just where you're into, like, torture and, like...
Hey, I have the definition for you.
Oh, okay. I was trying to come up with my own definition, but that works too.
It's pertaining to or characterized by interaction, especially sexual activity, in which one person enjoys inflicting physical or mental suffering on another person.
Okay. I didn't know that it was specifically sexual, but...
I don't think it has to be. I think it just is a lot of the time.
Okay.
And it was also said that her father made her watch brutal executions as a child.
Wonderful.
You know, our favorite. So, our sweet Elizabeth's really going through it here. So now that we have all of her backstory, when she was either 11 or 12 years old, she was placed into an arranged marriage with Ferenc Nadasdy. Nadasdy. And that is the son of the Baron Thomas Nadasdy de Nassad et Fagarsafold. It's so much.
What? What?
Fagarsfold. Fogarasfold.
Okay, I will take your word for it.
Do you want to read him?
No.
Exactly. Get out of my face. And his mother's name was Orsola Kanize, and they were an aristocratic Hungarian family. And he was 4 years older than Elizabeth. And she was 15. No, I was incorrect. That's when they got married. So either at 11 or 12. So then he is either like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
They are arranged to be married. But a year later, Elizabeth falls pregnant by what is considered a lower order lover. It was reported her fiance, Frank, had him torn apart and castrated.
Oh.
And it said he was castrated and then torn apart by dogs.
That's so sad.
Terrible. And they took the baby away from Elizabeth. It was a daughter. And the baby was given away to a woman that Elizabeth's family trusted.
Still, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's terrible. Because the only reason they gave the baby away is because it was from a lower order man.
They literally could have just said that it was from the fiance.
Yeah.
If they were that worried about, whatever.
But he was pissed.
I mean, I would be pissed too, but if you're trying to keep up appearances, you might as well just be like, oh, it's his.
Oh, they just made it go away instead.
That's so sad.
So then at 15, in 1575, Elizabeth is married to Count Nadacity. I just want to say audacity every time I read it because this man has a lot of fucking audacity. And it was a huge wedding. There was 4,500 people in attendance at this wedding. And since Elizabeth outranked him, he added Bathory to his last name instead of her changing her name.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it was specifically only because she had, more power than he did.
I was going to make a joke about the fact that my last name is
Yeah, you
your
took my last name, buddy.
Because your family has more power than mine.
Just remember who's in charge.
Okay. My last name tells me who's in charge.
Tells you who's the boss, because it's me. And the couple moves into the Nadacity mansion. They're considered castles, sorry. The Nadacity castle in Hungary. And it has where in Hungary, but it's really rough for me. Sarvar and Sedchi. I'm going to go with Sedchi.
Okay. Like I said, I will take your word for it.
Which is now in Slovakia.
Okay.
And her husband, Ferenc, was an ambitious soldier, so he was gone a lot of the time. He was not at the castle.
An ambitious soldier.
That's what it was described as in my research, okay? He was ambitious. So Elizabeth ran all the estates, which obviously was not common for the times.
Yeah.
But apparently she was really good at it. And she was also really good at torturing people when her husband was gone, too, because that's what she did.
Great.
And it was said that she took various lovers while he was gone, but she had 5 children with her husband. 2 died very young, and 2 daughters and 1 son survived.
Is this like a Game of Thrones situation? Like, were they actually his kids? Or...
I was wondering, but the articles I read said they were his kids.
I'm sure this could get real Game of Thrones real quick.
Because that's what I was thinking about it. Because one of the articles I read, it literally was like, oh, she took various lovers and had 5 children. And I was like, were they her husband's children?
Probably not. Especially if he's an ambitious soldier and he's gone all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. But he knew about all her torturing escapades because he built her a custom torture chamber.
You know, I love you a lot, but if you wanted me to build you a torture chamber, I would not.
Yeah, I would expect you to tell me no. And he had it built, specifically to exactly what she wanted. She got to design it from floor to ceiling.
I don't even know what I would put in a torture chamber.
I don't know either.
The fact that she had that many ideas, for one, I just don't like that.
Yeah, I'm just make a hangout room.
Yeah.
Just, play poker or something. I don't know. Play hoop and stick.
You know what? Have your lovers. Have as many as you would like. Just...
Don't kill people.
Yeah, just hang out with your lovers and don't have a torture room. How about that?
So when the torture started, she focused mostly on 10 to 14-year-old girls, and they were typically servants of the castles or daughters of local peasants who were sent to the castle to learn etiquette. Etiquette. Sorry.
I just watched your brain work.
Not very well. In the early stages of her torture, her favorite forms of torture were to put pins and needles under the girls' fingernails. She would tie girls down and smear them with honey and leave them to be attacked by ants and bees.
No.
And obviously she would beat them and smack them around, but those were like the big ones to start out with. And it goes on like this until 1604. And that is when her husband dies. And it was obviously said that he knew about her cruelty. And some people even thought that he might have been the one to teach her the torture methods. Yeah, because he was an ambitious soldier.
So he would, like, know torture things?
Because it was said he either, like, took part in it with her or watched when he was home.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But he had developed a debilitating pain in his legs that eventually left him completely disabled, and it ended up killing him at age 48 in 1604.
So do they think that she had a part in that? Or was it just, like, random?
I thought that, but I don't think so, like, reading more into it. Because it seemed like she actually did love her husband, because he just let her do what she wanted.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, she wouldn't have a reason to kill him?
And they had been married for 29 years when he died.
Oh, wow.
And before he passed away, he entrusted the care of his wife and his children to... I think it's supposed to be Georgie, but it's spelled really weird. It's Gyorgy.
Yeah. It's probably Georgie.
Georgie Thurzo, which is actually Elizabeth's cousin.
So, she's supposed to be with him now?
No. He's just supposed to take care of them. Like, make sure they're doing
I thought
things.
It was like her husband selected him.
Oh, no.
To be like I don't know.
He is supposed to now be the caretaker.
I got you. Not lover.
Not lover, caretaker.
Okay.
And it was said after the death of her husband that she became much more vicious. And now with the help of her former nurse, which was Lana Jew, and a local witch, Dorota Sentes. I'm going to go with Sentes.
Okay.
Elizabeth now at this point begins abducting other peasant girls to torture and kill them because obviously rumors are flying everywhere that girls that go to the Bathory castle are not coming back.
Yeah.
So no one is sending their children there anymore, either to work or learn etiquette.
So now she's just stealing them.
She's just snatching them babies up. So now she's moving from not only girls of local peasants, but girls from local noble families. She's just snatching all the babies up. So this is when the torture really ramps up. She begins to bite chunks of flesh off of her victims. And these are 10 to 14-year-old girls.
Why? What does she get out of that?
I don't really know. What does any murder get out of murdering?
Yeah, I don't know.
One of the girls was actually forced to cook the flesh that Elizabeth bit from her chest, and she made the girl eat it herself.
What?
You're just staring at me with an open mouth.
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be having an audio reaction because this is a fucking podcast, but I cannot make words right now.
Yeah. And she would stab the girls in the hands, the face, and the arms. She would cut them with scissors. She would use the scissors to cut the tops of their noses off. And she would push needles into their lips. I keep touching my face because I'm stressed.
Because you're in pain.
Yeah, so I'm worried I'm gonna start tapping my microphone. She would pour boiling water onto them, and she would close them in Iron Maidens. Do you know what Iron Maidens are?
I think so.
It's like the cages that have spikes on the inside of them. So, like, as they close, the spikes, like, puncture into your body. And it was said that she might be doing the Iron Maiden thing to collect the blood from them.
Oh, so that it all is, like, in one place.
Yeah. And I put the cutting of the noses right there, but I'd put in parentheses next to it. I said off with question marks and exclamation points because I need to know.
About cutting it off?
Yeah, like, where do you get that fucking thought? Like, oh, I'm gonna cut your fucking nose off.
I don't know. After a while, you probably just get bored of doing the same thing, so then you gotta come up with something else.
It's absolutely vomitous.
Yeah.
Like, sorry. Sorry, it's really hard to read these out loud. She would whip the girls with stinging nettles. Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
I think we have stinging nettles around here. Actually, they look like this.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a plant.
Yeah, it's a plant, but it's got little, like, they're almost like hairs on them, and when you touch them, they, like, stab you, and it, like, causes a really, like, painful sting.
Ugh. So she would whip them with that?
Yes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes. She would also burn them with irons, coins, and keys. Like, she would just get them really hot and just, like, stick them to the girls.
Why? I literally don't understand what she's getting out of any of this.
I don't understand it at all. And she would starve them to death. She would beat them to death. She would also burn them and then leave them outside in the cold just to, like, put them into shock.
Like, she would burn them and then just throw them outside?
Yeah, like out in the winter.
That's awful.
Or she would, like, burn them and then, like, put them in an ice bath.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Couldn't that alone kill you?
Yes.
Just like the shock from that?
It was also said that she would burn their genitalia with candles.
Mm.
And it was, like, that was where they got the parts of, like, oh, it was sexually motivated, was because she would burn their genitalia with candles.
I feel like that doesn't have to be sexually motivated.
I think it's just because it's of a sexual nature.
I guess. I'm just thinking, like, she's gonna get them where it hurts, because that's, like, obviously a very painful spot.
Mm-hmm. And there was also rumors that she would engage in cannibalism, but there wasn't really anything to back that up. So I think that is just people spinning off of the epilepsy treatment again.
Oh, I was gonna say, is it because she was biting chunks of flesh off of people?
Also that too. But there was, like, nothing, no, like, hard evidence to say, like, oh yeah, I watched her eat somebody.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either. It wouldn't surprise me, but I feel like all of the other stuff is like, I watched her do that. I watched her do this. I watched her do that. And then it's like, oh yeah, and I heard she ate people too.
They're just, like, throwing that in there.
Yeah, I feel like that was very, like, just, like, tacked on at the end. And Elizabeth also believed that human blood would keep her looking young and keep her healthy. And it was said that she developed this thought after she slapped a servant so hard that the servant's blood spattered back onto her face. And she discovered her skin looked younger where the blood had been splashed.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I'm just giving you facts, man.
Also, isn't that what people think QAnon is to a certain degree? Like, people...
Are you talking about the adrenochrome thing?
I thought that was part of QAnon.
I think it is.
Where people are saying that celebrities are taking the blood of children and...
It's the adrenochrome. Out of their blood.
Oh. Because I know Ellen was, like, accused of that or something.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, Ellen looks younger now than she did, like, years ago.
Have you seen Ellen recently?
Well, not recently. Like, I would say, like, 2019 Ellen looked a lot younger than, like, 2010 Ellen.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, did you see, like, Panini Ellen? Because she looked rough.
No, I have not seen Pandemic Ellen.
She looked rough.
Maybe she couldn't get her blood anymore.
I don't know. We'll have to cover that too.
She canceled her talk show, and then her supply of children essence is gone.
Not the children essence.
Is that an episode title?
Maybe. Okay. Back to Elizabeth.
Okay.
Leave Ellen alone. Free Britney. Leave Ellen alone.
We don't like Ellen anymore, though.
But
we're
leave her
not
alone.
supposed to.
Leave her alone.
Okay.
That's none of our business. Now I'm going to disprove to you the whole bathing in blood thing. Morbid did this in their episode. Elena did it, but I didn't have time to go listen to it, so I just did all the math myself.
Okay.
So a standard bathtub is 5 feet long, 5 feet and 6 inches long, which is 1,700 millimeters in length, 700 millimeters in width, and 400 millimeters in height. So that means it can hold 160 liters of liquid.
Okay.
And I'm just going off of standard bathtubs now, because I didn't figure they would have gotten smaller.
Yeah, if anything, they've gotten bigger.
Exactly. So there is 10.5 pints of blood in the human body, which is about 5 liters. But blood volume is based off of weight. So your blood volume is generally 7% of your body weight, okay?
This is a lot.
I really went hard, okay? So your blood volume is 7% of your actual body weight. So the average 10-year-old girl is about 70 pounds. And the average 14-year-old girl is about 105 pounds. Can't relate. I was definitely not 105 pounds at 14. So I did around an 80-pound child. Would have 2,650 milliliters of blood, which is just over 2.5 liters. It's 2.65 liters if you want to be specific, okay?
Okay.
So if you divide 160 liters, which is what it takes to fill the bathtub, by 2.65, you get 60.37. So it would take 61 little girls to fill a bathtub with their blood.
This is so terrible.
My FBI man probably thinks I've gone off the deep end.
See, when I picture bathing in blood, though, I don't picture in a bath of blood. I picture kind of how they did it in American Horror Story, where it's like she
A whore bath?
Yeah. Like, yes. Like, she would just kind of, like, splash a little bit here and there on her face or on her arms. Or
You see, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I believe she did that. But...
the whore bath of blood.
The whore bath of blood. The whore bathory of blood. No, sorry.
Oh, where's Kendall?
But back to the children. Back to the children.
Yes.
It would take 61 children to fill a bathtub. And that's just not practical.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't want to reuse the same...
Well, you couldn't, because blood... Okay, I'm continuing, because I went harder. Because blood coagulates outside of the body in 3 to 15 minutes.
Okay, this is a gross question. So, in theory, if she was sitting in the blood, could the blood, like, harden around her?
Yes. She would have to be very still for a very long time, I'm pretty sure. But yeah.
Ugh. That's gross.
But yeah, so that's my explanation on why she didn't bathe in blood. Whoever looks at my search history is going to think that I'm a killer. But I'm not.
That's okay. I'm sure people Google worse things.
And I feel like they could piece it together because I Googled Elizabeth Bathory in 15 different settings.
Yeah.
And then looked up how much blood is in a 10-year-old's body. So now, obviously, everyone knows, like, Elizabeth is a murderer. And people are starting to get pissed about it because she's taking, like, higher-ranking nobles' children now. So in 1602, a priest wrote a letter. So this is before her husband even died. So this is 1602.
Okay.
A priest had written a letter discussing excessive cruelty shown by Bathory and her husband towards their servants. But since her family is so prominent, they just kind of like sweep it under the rug.
Of course.
Because the letter didn't detail anything like specific. Like, oh, she's killing them. It was just like, oh, she's really mean.
They couldn't have been more specific.
I guess, I don't know. But at the time, it's not illegal to be, quote unquote, mean to your servants. Because we're in, the 1600s, like early 1600s.
But they should have specified.
Yeah, I'm not standing up for the dude who wrote the letter.
I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
it's definitely...
if you know someone's getting murdered, you should fucking do something about it. So her crimes are continually being ignored until 1610, which by this point, almost all people knew about the Blood Countess. Well, Lutheran minister Istvan Magyari goes to the High Court of Vienna and makes like a formal complaint. And this finally sparks an investigation. So, guess who was put in charge of the investigation?
Who?
Georgie Thurzo.
The cousin?
Yeah, the one that's supposed to be looking after her.
Why was he put in charge of the investigation?
I don't really know.
I feel like that's so random.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it was one of those things where it was like, well, you're supposed to be fucking watching her, so you better go figure it out.
That or maybe nobody else wanted to.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they were like, I'm going to get fucked up if I go in there. I ain't going in there.
Yeah.
Well, either way, Thurzo sends 2 notaries to collect witnesses. And in under a year, they come back with 300 statements of what Elizabeth has been doing.
300?
300. It was like 269, I think, if you want to be very specific.
And where were all these people before? Why couldn't they have said something before?
Because they were all being ignored because Elizabeth was a noble.
Yeah, that's true. Because they're probably all, like, lower class.
Yeah.
I say that in air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, lower class people.
It was all the people who their kids were the ones that got murdered, and it was their sister or their mom or... So, Thurzo arrests Bathory himself in 1611, and it was said that he caught her red-handed torturing a young woman. And I read that when he entered the room, he found Elizabeth chewing on the girl. And I don't know what that means.
Hang on. I shouldn't be laughing. I'm laughing.
No, I'm
purely...
picturing, like, the dog, like, swinging
like
around.
gnawing.
Yeah, like swinging around a squeaky toy.
Yeah, I'm just picturing her, like, gnawing on somebody, and I'm like, what?
I don't like it because it says found chewing on the mutilated body of the dying girl. And I'm like, her whole body? Did she cut a piece of her off? Is the woman awake?
I've got nothing.
I'm literally picturing Elizabeth, like, on all fours like a dog, like, swinging this girl around, like, with her teeth.
Yeah, I am too.
Like, I'm not trying to be funny because a girl got murdered, but, like, I genuinely, why do people word shit the way that they word it?
I shouldn't be laughing this hard.
And Thurzo also said there was mutilated bodies of girls strewn all across the courtyard and the basement of the tower. And then January of 1611, so right after Elizabeth is arrested, Elizabeth's cohorts, 4 people, which was Dirota the witch, Lana the nurse, Katerina Benica, and Janos Javari were all put on trial, and they were put on trial for 80 counts of murder, just assisting Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were all put to death. All 4 of her cohorts were put to death. So Thurzo meets with Elizabeth's son Paul and her 2 son-in-laws, and they decide together they're not going to do a trial because it would be embarrassing to the family.
I feel like that's not something you can just decide.
Yeah. So they're not going to do an execution or a public trial. They're going to do a private trial with just them. I thought you were going to say something.
I have nothing to say. Sorry.
No, you're fine. And they were also worried that if they put Elizabeth on trial, that Elizabeth's property would go to the crown.
Okay.
They wanted it.
Okay, I'm sure they have enough land. I'm sure you have enough. Like, just kill her.
Well, they didn't do that. So Elizabeth was confined to one room of the castle, the original castle that they moved into when she first got married. The one that I still can't say the name of. And it was said that the room only had an opening for air and for food. And she lived in that room for 3 years straight. And then she was found dead in 1614 in that room. She was 54 years old when she died.
In American Horror Story, didn't they bury her alive?
Yes.
See, that's really what I thought happened.
Mm-mm. I always get confused. Sorry, I just hit my mic stand. I always get confused watching American Horror Story because I mix up Elizabeth Bathory with the other woman. Hang on, give me a second.
We talked about this the other day.
Mm-hmm. Madame LaLaurie.
Yeah, so then that's what I'm thinking of. Was Madame LaLaurie was buried alive in American Horror Story.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to cover her, like, next or soon or something.
So that we can...
compare and contrast.
get our facts straight.
Oh, shit. I didn't realize that. It's Lady Gaga in season 5 is Elizabeth Bathory.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say I thought they were vampires, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe if we would have watched the whole fucking season, we would have known that.
We got tired of it. I forget why we got tired of it, but we did.
I don't know either. I just always think that every important character in American Horror Story is played by Kathy Bates.
Yeah. Or, what's his name? Or what's her name?
Her name or his name?
Her.
Oh, Sarah Paulson.
Yeah. I always think about Sarah Paulson when I think
I thought you were going to say
American
Evan
Horror
Peters.
Story. No.
Okay, I'll take you back to Elizabeth Bathory now.
Okay.
I'll cover Madame LaLaurie some other time. So she was 54 years old when she died, and her victim count was said to be as high as 650 girls. But 600 is cited in most places. I guess the count of 650 is claimed by a servant girl who saw it in a book of Elizabeth's. But my first thought is they never found that fucking book anywhere. And two, why could the servant read?
I'm sure some servants could read.
I don't know. I just feel like in the 1600s it wasn't like widely seen for servants to be able to read.
Also, it might not have been something that she really had to, like, read to figure it out.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because, I mean, she could know numbers. I mean, if she just saw, like, 650 written somewhere and she, like, used context clues to figure it out.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
All good options. So, Elizabeth was originally buried at the castle church in the crypt, but local villagers were fucking pissed about that. So, her body was eventually moved to her birth home. It was buried at the castle that she was born in.
Okay.
Elizabeth currently holds the title for most prolific female murderer and most prolific murderer in the Western world, according to Guinness.
According to, like, Guinness?
Yes, the Guinness World Record book, Elizabeth holds the title.
I hate that they have a section for that.
I know. I wanted to go, look through them. We might have to.
Okay.
So some people believe that Elizabeth isn't guilty at all, because it is said that out of the 300 witness statements, 220 of them were just hearsay. And the imprisonment of Elizabeth allowed the family to take control of all of her possessions and all of her land. And I guess the Habsburg court owed her money because her husband had given them a loan when he was still alive and they hadn't paid it back yet. Well, after Elizabeth was imprisoned, they didn't have to pay that money back. So it is, some people out there think that they just did it to get rid of her. Because people owed her money, and then people wanted her power, and...
So they think that it's all made up?
Yeah.
I could see that. She might have killed some people. Maybe it just wasn't that much.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like it's just, that's very extreme for, oh, we want to get rid of her. Let's make up a story about how she is gnawing on children.
Well, that's what, some of it might be rooted in truth, but then it just got blown out of proportion,
mm-hmm.
In order
mm-hmm.
to spiral things to the point of her, I don't know, getting taken away, or they wanted her killed, or whatever.
True. So Elizabeth's story nearly disappeared completely because her trial, I say trial with quotes, was so secretive. There was only rumors of the female vampire of Transylvania that were just like left floating around when Laszlo Tarowski found the trial records in 1720. So it was over 100 years after she had died. He found the trial records and he like put it out there for everyone. So that is why we know the story of Elizabeth now.
So they did a good job of sweeping that under the rug.
Yeah, they really just got rid of that shit.
That's crazy.
Because you have to think, if it would have went much longer, like without like being brought back up to the world, it would have been gone and we never would have known about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. It makes you think about like what
did they get rid of?
Yeah. What things don't we know about?
Exactly. And that is all the info I have on Elizabeth Bathory for you.
That was a good one.
Even though I spent half the story thinking it was a different bitch in American Horror Story. But whatever, it's fine.
That's okay. We were both on the same page about that, so we were both wrong.
Now I want to go watch season 5 of American Horror Story.
The vampire one?
I guess. I feel like they don't call her Elizabeth in that show.
Literally all I can think of is her and that dude, like, having sex in people's blood. That's literally all I'm thinking about. Because that's all I got out of that season.
Sorry to anyone who hasn't watched American Horror Story and plans on it.
Oh, we didn't, like, spoil anything.
Yeah,
I don't think. Are we ready for my story?
I think so. What are you telling me about?
Are we ready to be brought down immensely? So, I'm going to be telling you about the Holocaust and how people think that it didn't happen.
If you don't believe in the Holocaust, you have fucking issues.
My conspiracy theory teacher in high school knew somebody personally.
I thought you were going to tell me he didn't believe in the fucking Holocaust.
No. But she knew somebody personally who didn't believe in the Holocaust.
That's so fucked.
Listen, I've been to the Holocaust Museum. I promise you that shit happened. So, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to tell you what the Holocaust is. So the Holocaust, also known as the Shoah, I think is how you say that, was the genocide of European Jews during World War II between 1941 and 1945. Nazi Germany and its collaborators systematically murdered some 6 million Jews across German-occupied Europe, around 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population.
So, wait a minute. You said it was 6 million Jews over 4 years.
Yes.
That's fucking insane.
Are you doing some math over there?
I am. So 4 years is 1,424 days. So that means they murdered 4,213 people every day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Every day. That means Christmas, Easter, your birthday, 4,000 people were murdered. 4,300 people were murdered.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Every single day of the year for 4 years straight.
I mean, they were using all kinds of methods, though. I mean, that's what I was just going to read, is that they use the methods of mass shootings, labor camps, gas chambers, gas vans. They did all kinds of stuff.
It's fucking insane to think about.
And I mean, they had so many bodies that they had to burn them or bury them in giant holes. Like just throwing them all together.
It means they were murdering 3 people every minute.
That's crazy.
Like, it's fucking insane to think about. If you don't think the Holocaust happened, like, come catch these hands.
So, now that we know what the Holocaust was, I'm going to tell you about the stages of genocide. Because there is, like, a strict, like, classification almost that they use to determine if something is genocide or if it's, like, going down that path. Because there have been more cases of genocide than just...
Right. So if it's just, like, if it's a mass murder or if it's genocide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first stage is classification, which is by race, religion, ethnicity, or something that separates us from them.
Yeah, right. People Like the rest of the world from the victims?
Yeah.
Got it.
The second stage is symbolism. So it's giving names to classifications. So like Jews or gypsies, or they're distinguished by colors or the way that they're forced to appear, like in how they dress.
Right.
Classification and symbolization are universally human and do not necessarily result in genocide unless they lead to the next stage, which is dehumanization. When combined with hatred, symbols may be forced upon unwilling members of groups. In this situation, it was the yellow star for Jewish people.
And also the numbers, right?
Not necessarily, because that came after.
Oh, I was just like grouping that in with like the dehumanization. Because it's like you don't have a name anymore. This is you. This is who you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3, as we heard, is dehumanization. One group denies the humanity of the other group. Members of it are equated with animals, vermin, insects, or diseases. Dehumanization overcomes the normal human revulsion against murder. At this stage, hate propaganda in print and on hate radios is used to vilify the victim group. So essentially the Nazis were just putting out a bunch of propaganda being like, well, the Jewish people suck, so that's why we're doing this. Or like, that's why they have to die.
Right.
And then 4 is organization. Genocide is always organized, usually by the state, though sometimes informally or by terrorist groups. Special army units or militias are often trained and armed. Plans are made for genocidal killing.
The fact that people have the capacity to just sit down and think about the fact that they hate someone so much that they want every single person who is even, like, has one thing in common with them to be fucking obliterated.
Literally. And I think about, like, I've heard some places that wasn't Hitler Jewish or something?
No, I think his parents...
Or somebody in his family was, or something.
I thought it was his parents were taken care of by Jewish doctors. And when they didn't make it, he was like, all right, well, I'm killing every Jew.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I just know that, like, that stems somewhere, like, very personally for him.
Yeah.
Whether it was he was part Jewish or what you said, that his parents were taken care of by Jewish doctors, I don't know.
Okay, according to AnneFrank.org, the article Hitler's Anti-Semitism, Why Did He Hate the Jews? It says, Hitler's hatred of Jews is not clear in Mein Kampf. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's his book.
Gotcha. He described his development into an anti-Semite as the result of a long personal struggle. Supposedly his aversion to everything Jewish came to fruition when he was living and working as a painter in Vienna in 1908 to 1913. Most historians believe that Hitler came up with this explanation in hindsight. He would have used it to assure people who were not yet convinced of his ideas that they would eventually see the light.
So they're saying that that was fake?
Yeah, but they're saying that they think he was, like, exposed to it at an early age in his life.
So he was exposed to, like, anti-Semitic ideas.
Yeah.
And then he just took it to extremes.
Apparently, yeah. According to that article.
Okay. So stage 5 is polarization. Extremists drive the groups apart. Hate groups broadcast polarizing propaganda. Laws may forbid intermarriage or social interaction. Stage 6 is preparation. Victims are identified and separated out because of their ethnic or religious identity. Death lists are drawn up. Members of victim groups are forced to wear identifying symbols. Their property is expropriated. They are often segregated into ghettos, forced into concentration camps, or confined to a famine-struck region and starved.
That's so fucking scary.
Stage 7 is extermination. Extermination begins and quickly becomes the mass killing legally called genocide. It is extermination to the killers because they do not believe their victim to be fully human. When it is sponsored by the state, the armed forces often work with militias to do the killing. Sometimes the genocide results in revenge killings by groups against each other, creating the downward whirlpool cycle of bilateral genocide.
That's so fucking scary that people really just think, like, oh, it doesn't matter if I kill all these people because they're not actually people.
Yeah, it's
You
terrible.
know what I mean? The fact that Hitler was able to just come in and fucking, like, convince everyone that Jewish people aren't people.
Yeah.
Is the scariest shit I've ever heard of in my life.
Like the fact that people can share that mindset.
The fact that people are so easily convinced of shit.
Also the fact that, like, neo-Nazis still exist.
Punch a neo-Nazi today.
Yes. Fuck Nazis.
Yeah.
And stage 8, which is the one that we're going to be talking about, is denial. Denial is the 8th stage that always follows a genocide. It is among the surest indicator of further genocidal massacres. The perpetrators of genocide dig up the mass graves, burn the bodies, try to cover up the evidence, and intimidate the witnesses. They deny that they committed any crimes and often blame what happened on the victims. They block investigations of the crimes and continue to govern until driven from power by force. So, with the 8th stage of denial, that is bringing us to the actual denial that we're going to be talking about. So, Holocaust denial is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that asserts that the Nazi genocide of Jews, known as the Holocaust, is a myth or fabrication. And Holocaust deniers will make one or more of the following statements. There's a lot, so bear with me.
Oh, goodness.
Nazi Germany's final solution was aimed only at deporting Jews and did not include their extermination.
Where the fuck did they all go then?
Exactly. Nazi authorities did not use extermination camps and gas chambers for the mass murder of Jews.
Then what were they using them for?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
Because
just curious.
we still have proof that gas chambers exist
Yeah.
today. The actual number of Jews murdered is significantly lower than the accepted figure of 5 to 6 million.
It doesn't matter if they murdered 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they planned it out and carried it out so they can eat a bag of dog shit for all I care.
Yeah, literally. Like you said, even if they killed like 10, it's still wrong.
Exactly.
The Holocaust is a hoax perpetrated by the Allies, a Jewish conspiracy, or it was just the Soviet Union. That one had a lot to it. They're saying it was either the Allied powers or the Jewish people came up with it, or it was just the Soviet Union.
It's somebody's fault. It's just not our fault.
Yeah.
Somebody might have done something, but it wasn't us, I promise.
Stories of the Holocaust were a myth initially created by the Allies of World War II to demonize Germans. Jews having spread this myth as part of a grander plot intended to enable the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, and now to garner continuing support for the state of Israel.
What the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck
Also,
is wrong with
what
people?
do they get out of that?
Literally. They're like, oh shit, they're gonna make a better life for themselves. Like, we better do something about it. Like, that was their reasoning, was like, oh, they made it up to make a better life for themselves. I'm like, obviously they didn't, because they're all fucking dying.
Yeah. Documentary evidence of the Holocaust, from photographs to the diary of Anne Frank, is all fake. People just say it's fake. It didn't happen.
Fake news.
So you're telling me that every photograph from the Holocaust is fake? This is just like people saying that the moon landing is fake. Do you know how many people would have to be sworn into secrecy for this to be fake?
Literally.
Somebody would have came forward and said that it was fake by now.
Yeah.
Survivor testimonies are filled with errors and inconsistencies and are thus unreliable.
Oh, yeah. Survivor testimony. The people who have been starved and beaten and watched murders occur for the last 4 years. They're not all exactly the same.
Yeah,
They don't all word for word have the same fucking scenario.
And also, if you've been through that much, I'm sure you don't remember a lot of it.
Dude, I wouldn't even be able to fucking talk.
Yeah, like, you've probably repressed a lot of things.
Again, I'm not a survivor. Like, I could not go through a camp. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it either. The Nazi treatment of Jews was no different from what the Allies did to their enemies in World War II.
You know, I haven't seen any gas chambers recently.
Also, like, even if, like, the Allies did torture and kill people, that doesn't
make it okay.
Yeah. That still doesn't change the fact that it was wrong. That just means that there's more people who were wrong.
Right. Excuse me, more than just the Jews got murdered. Okay, I'm pissed about that too.
Like, we're pissed about all of it.
Like, fuck you.
So, the ideas of the Holocaust deniers are based on a predetermined conclusion that ignores overwhelming historical evidence to the contrary. Of course, we could have figured that out.
Yeah.
Scholars use the term denial to describe the views and methodology of Holocaust deniers in order to distinguish them from legitimate historical revisionists who challenge orthodox interpretations of history using established historical methodologies. So the reason they're called deniers is because there are genuinely people who are historical revisionists that look at things to, like, make sure that history is correct.
Right.
They don't want the Holocaust deniers to be thrown in there because they don't deserve to be,
right,
like, grouped in with those people.
Yeah.
So now we're going to actually talk about some of the deniers.
Oh, let's fucking hear it. I'll roast them alive.
And then after that, I'm going to tell you the reason why the Holocaust most definitely did happen.
Okay, thanks. You know, I was in suspense. I wasn't sure.
So the first person to openly write after the end of World War II that he doubted the reality of the Holocaust
was bold as fuck to begin with. Bold as fuck.
Was French journalist Maurice Berdichet. I'm going to say that's how you say that.
You didn't roast me for my name reading, so I won't roast you for yours.
Okay. In his 1948 book, Nuremberg or the Promised Land, he's viewed as the father figure of Holocaust denial. What a great title. Maurice introduced in his works many aspects of neo-fascist and Holocaust denial propaganda techniques and ideological structures. His work is deemed influential in regenerating post-war European far-right ideas at the time of identity crisis in the 1950s and 1960s. And his arguments form the basis of numerous works of Holocaust denial that followed, and he is quoted saying, "Testimonies are not reliable, especially coming from the mouths of Jews and communists."
So you hate Jewish people, don't you, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he hates Jewish people, so he's like, well, maybe if we just, like, say it's all fake, we can just, like, pick this up again sometime.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, if you hate Jewish people, why are you saying that the Holocaust didn't happen?
Right.
What do you get out of that?
He's sweeping it under the rug.
Because if anything, I would think that you would agree with it.
He probably does. He's like, man, I don't think it happened, but wish it did.
I don't know.
That's what it sounds like.
I just have a lot of questions. So the next person we're going to talk about is Harry Elmer Barnes. So Harry Elmer Barnes, at one time, was a mainstream American historian. And he assumed a Holocaust denial stance in his later years of being a historian. Between World War I and World War II, Barnes was an anti-war writer and a leader of the historical revisionist movement. Starting in 1924, Barnes worked closely with the Center for the Study of Causes of War, a German government-funded think tank whose sole purpose was to disseminate the official government position that Germany was the victim of Allied aggression in 1914, and that the Versailles Treaty was morally invalid.
I'm so sick of people. Like, immediately, they're just like, we're the victim, we're the victim, we're the victim. Shut up. Everyone is the victim in their own story.
Following World War II, Barnes became convinced that allegations made against Germany and Japan, including the Holocaust, were wartime propaganda that had been used to justify the United States' involvement in World War II. Barnes claimed that there were two false claims made about World War II, namely that Germany started the war in 1939 and the Holocaust, which Barnes claimed did not happen.
What the fuck does he think was happening?
Especially when he was working so closely with the German government.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily with the government, but like he was studying causes of war in Germany.
Yeah, like people that genuinely don't believe it happened, I want them to in detail explain to me what they think was happening.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't make notes about it because I couldn't find a lot of information. But at one point, I read about a guy who was a survivor of Auschwitz who believed that the Holocaust didn't happen. Like, dude, you were there.
Like, that is Stockholm Syndrome.
Like, you were in the center.
The shit. Yeah, you were waist deep in the shit and you still think there's no shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you repressed some shit somewhere.
This next thing is just kind of thrown in here because I thought it was an interesting fact. We'll get back to people in a second. But in 1980, the IHR, which is the Institute of Historical Review, which is an organization dedicated to publicly challenging commonly accepted history of the Holocaust. There's literally a whole institute just for this.
Great.
They promised a $50,000 reward to anyone who could prove that Jewish people were put in gas chambers at Auschwitz. And this guy, Mel Mermelstein, I believe that's how you say his name, wrote a letter to the editors of the Los Angeles Times and other, other newspapers, I guess, including the Jerusalem Post. The IHR wrote back offering him $50,000 for proof that the Jewish people were gassed in gas chambers. And he then submitted a notarized account of his internment at Auschwitz and how he witnessed Nazi guards literally putting his mom and two sisters in a gas chamber. And they refused to pay him the money.
What the fuck?
Literally had a notarized letter saying that this happened to him.
Yeah, do me a favor and relive all your trauma, and then I'm not going to give you anything for it.
Yeah. But, on a good note, later in 1985, a trial in which Mel sued the IHR, he was rewarded $90,000.
Good.
And he was issued a letter of apology. So the IHR, their website now under the About the IHR section reads, "The IHR does not deny the Holocaust and has no position on any specific event." Even though it is literally an institute that is dedicated to the historical review of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
They're saying that they have no position on any specific event.
I feel like they have to believe in it if they're going through and making sure everything's historically accurate.
Well, they're not making sure that it's historically accurate.
Oh shit, that's what I thought they were doing.
No. They're dedicated to publicly challenging the accepted history of the Holocaust.
Okay, my pea brain just, like, interpreted that as they're making sure everything's accurate. But I got you. We're on the same page now.
No. That's who we were talking about when we said that they offered money.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Are you ready to talk about our next person?
Yes.
Our next person is James Keegstra. In 1984, James Keegstra, a Canadian high school teacher, was charged under the Canadian Criminal Code for promoting hatred against an identifiable group by communicating anti-Semitic statements to his students. During class, he would describe Jews as people of profound evil who had created the Holocaust purely to gain sympathy. He also tested his students in exams on his theories and opinions of Jews.
Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a teacher, you have to be unbiased.
Yeah.
Point blank, period.
Yeah, if you're a teacher, you definitely shouldn't be sharing those opinions.
Yeah.
So, talking about what Keegstra was charged with, this is going to be a mouthful.
Let's have it.
So, Keegstra was charged under Section 281.2 of the Criminal Code, now Section 319.2, which provides that everyone who, by communicating statements other than in private conversation, willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group commits a criminal offense. He was convicted at trial before the Alberta Court of Queen's Bench. The court rejected the argument advanced by Keegstra and his lawyers, Doug Christie, which is the name of his lawyer, that promoting hatred is a constitutionally protected freedom of expression.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Keegstra appealed to the Alberta Court of Appeal. That court agreed with Keegstra and he was acquitted. The Crown then appealed the case to the Supreme Court of Canada, which ruled by a 4-3 majority that promoting hatred could be justifiably restricted under Section 1 of the Charter. The Supreme Court restored Keegstra's conviction.
Stressed me out that 3 people in the Canada Supreme Court really just thought what he was doing was fine.
Yeah. And of course, he was fired from his teaching position.
Thank fuck. So, like, he literally was just, like, promoting hate speech and then went to trial and was like, but it's fine.
Well, because he was saying that by having freedom of speech, that you should be able to put hate speech in there.
I'm allowed to talk about whatever I want, so I'm just gonna be a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
God, I hate it. I hate it.
It should be freedom of speech to a certain extent.
Which I'm pretty sure it is in our Constitution.
What, freedom of speech to a certain extent?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just like you're not allowed to yell fire in a crowded space.
Right.
Because...
inducing panic.
Yeah, you're not allowed to induce panic. It is freedom of speech to a certain extent until it becomes harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving on to the reasons that it did happen.
Thank God. I mean, like, not thank God because I hate that it happened, but, like, the fact that people believe it didn't happen hurts my soul and my brain and all of that.
Much of the controversy surrounding the claims of Holocaust deniers centers on the methods used to present arguments that the Holocaust allegedly never happened as commonly accepted. Numerous accounts have been given by Holocaust deniers, including evidence presented in court cases of claimed facts and evidence. However, independent research has shown these claims to be based upon flawed research, biased statements, or even deliberately falsified evidence. Opponents of Holocaust denial have documented numerous instances in which such evidence was altered or manufactured.
So it fucking happened.
Yeah.
And people need to stop making shit up.
Because essentially, Holocaust deniers are taking little bits of evidence and being like, oh, well, look at this, or look at this. But then other, like, historians are taking it and being like, well, actually, you made that up.
Well, actually, if you opened your fucking eyeballs, you would realize that it happened.
The Holocaust was well documented by the bureaucracy of the Nazi government itself. It was further witnessed by the Allied forces who entered Germany and its associated Axis states towards the end of World War II. It was also witnessed from the inside by non-Jewish captives such as Catholic French resistance member André Rodry, I think that's how you say that.
Sure, we're going with that.
Who wrote extensively and testified about his experience in 7 camps, including Auschwitz, and also produced the oldest contemporary sketch of a camp crematorium. So this guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah. So you should listen to this guy.
This man's be in the know.
According to researchers Michael Sherman and Alex Grobman, there is a convergence of evidence that proves that the Holocaust happened. This evidence includes written documents, hundreds of thousands of letters, memos, blueprints, orders, bills, speeches, articles, memoirs, and confessions, eyewitness testimony and accounts from survivors, Jewish Sonderkommandos, which means special command unit, who helps load bodies from the gas chamber into the crematoria in exchange for a chance of survival.
Jesus, that's so fucking harsh.
Yeah. SS guards, commandants, local townspeople, and even high-ranking Nazis who spoke openly about the mass murders. Photographs including official military and press photographs, civilian photographs, secret photographs taken by survivors.
All the fucking photographs you can think of.
Literally. Aerial photographs, German...
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing.
No, the word photograph for some reason is just like kind of funny. German and Allied film footage and unofficial photographs taken by the German military.
Are unofficial photographs not the same as secret photographs?
I don't know. Apparently not.
Were they just trying to make it as dramatic as possible?
Other evidence is the concentration camps themselves.
What about them?
Work camps and extermination camps that still exist in varying degrees of originality and in reconstruction. Because some of them, they're trying to rebuild them.
Like restore them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And population demographics reconstructed from the pre-World War II era. If 6 million Jews weren't murdered, then where did they go?
Exactly.
Yeah, because the population demographics literally show that 6 million people essentially went missing.
Because that was my thinking about, like, oh, we just wanted to deport them. Then where are they?
Then there should be proof that they went to the other countries that they say they went to.
Plane tickets, train tickets, bus tickets. Where'd you put them? Like, where the fuck did these people go?
And the last thing that I have for you is I'm going to tell you the 17 countries where it is illegal to talk about Holocaust denial.
So it's illegal, like, to say it didn't happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Hungary, Israel, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portland, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Slovakia, and Switzerland.
Nice.
It is illegal in all of those places to say that the Holocaust did not happen.
You know, for some reason I'm surprised it's not illegal here, but then again, freedom of speech and all that, so.
Literally, I feel like in the United States you could say whatever you want, and it doesn't really matter. Sadly.
Yeah.
But that is all I have for you about the Holocaust and people thinking that it's not real.
It fucking happened, people. It fucking happened.
It literally did happen. And the problem, too, is, like, there is no good reasons why people think it didn't happen. Like, some conspiracy theories, I can see both sides, where I'm like, okay, I don't think that, but, like, I could see where you got that idea.
Right.
But all of the reasoning with the Holocaust is just like, it just didn't happen. There's no reasoning to it.
I don't want to think about the fact that they did that, so it didn't happen.
Yeah. But that's all I've got on that. Would you like a shower thought?
Of course I would like a shower thought.
This is a very, like, lighthearted one, and I don't know how much we'll be able to banter about it.
Let's see what we got.
People sentenced to house arrest last year really lucked out.
You know what? Where's the lie?
Yeah, because, I mean, you had to stay home anyway,
yeah.
So.
If there was a year to be put on house arrest, last year was the year.
Yeah. That's all I have for you. Just something to think about. Can it just be like one of those things, you know how if you're held in jail and then they have your trial, they, like, subtract however much time you served?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I ever got arrested or something, could I be like, well, technically I lived through the pandemic, so I've already been in house arrest for, like, a year.
You planning on becoming a jailbird?
Maybe.
I will not be joining you.
If podcasting doesn't work out, maybe that'll be my next career
It's your
choice.
plan C. A
Yes.
9 to 5 isn't cutting it. We're going to see if a podcast can do it. If not, we're just going to go to prison.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really know if I'm on that boat, but I'll watch you sail away, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for not crushing my dreams.
Support you while you're on your own path. All right, guys. This is the end. So do me a favor, you guys. Send me all of your listener stories to allmarblesLostPod@gmail.com. Our Facebook is All Marbles Lost Podcast. Our Patreon is patreon.com/AMLpod. Twitter is AML Podcast. And our Instagram is AML Pod. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.